In this video, we're going to explore the theme of kingship in Macbeth, examining how the play presents different models of kingship and the reasons for exploring this theme within the context of Shakespeare's time. So let's first just define kingship, because I think sometimes people really overcomplicate this one. Kingship is just literally related to the position of actually being a king. Now, obviously, every king rules differently because, of course, they're different people. So this word can be used to encompass the qualities, duties, and responsibilities that you might see within someone's reign. So some characteristics of an ideal king might be these. A king is expected to be just, wise, and benevolent, upholding the welfare of his subjects and maintaining order within the kingdom. But that doesn't necessarily mean they will do that. Kingship, like I say, just relates to actually ruling as a king. And as we know in Macbeth, there is a major contrast between rulers. That's what we're going to explore. Now, firstly, we want to think about why Shakespeare chose to really focus on this theme at that time. Shakespeare wrote Macbeth during the reign of King James I, who believed in the divine right of kings. This was the belief that kings were appointed by God and were accountable only to him. By exploring different models of kingship, Shakespeare subtly supports King James I's views on the divine right of kings and the importance of legitimate rule. The theme reinforces the idea that a rightful king chosen by God brings peace, prosperity, and stability, whilst a king not rightfully chosen would bring chaos and destruction. This is especially important given that the gunpowder plot had occurred only a year before the play was written and performed. The play seems to act as a reminder to the audience that King James was divinely appointed and so therefore rightful, just as Duncan was in the play. If you are to tamper with that structure, there will be consequences, as there are for Macbeth. So let's first look at kingship through the character of Duncan. He is the king at the beginning, and it makes sense to track the changes with each new king that we see. So King Duncan is portrayed as a benevolent and just ruler. He is kind, trusting, and generous, embodying the ideal qualities of kingship. There is a great deal of respect for him, and this is evident in the despair the characters feel upon discovering his death later. Unfortunately, because he is so trusting, this also proves to be a flaw of his that costs his life. For example, he says, "There's no art to find the mind's construction in the face. He was a gentleman on whom I built an absolute trust," and that's from Act 1, Scene 4. This quote highlights Duncan's trusting nature, as he describes his disappointment at being unable to see through the original Thane of Cawdor's treacherous facade. He trusted the Thane completely and so seems upset with himself that he could not see this man's intentions through his face. His naivety to treachery ultimately leads to his downfall. You can explore the theme of appearance versus reality coinciding with the theme of kingship here firstly. You can also explore the word art and its connotations of skill and mastery. Duncan implies he lacks this skill. And then you can explore the word absolute and how it highlights the completeness of Duncan's trust and essentially how this reveals his naivety. Ultimately, Duncan's trust in his subjects is both a strength and a weakness. His goodness makes him an ideal king, but his inability to recognise the treachery around him makes him vulnerable. Therefore, this quotation foreshadows his downfall, especially with the fact that this title goes straight to Macbeth, someone who is also planning to deceive him. Of course, our next king is Macbeth, following the murder of Duncan. Macbeth's reign is marked by fear, violence, and tyranny. His usurpation of the throne disrupts the natural order, leading to chaos and suffering because, like we said, he wasn't appointed by God, so he completely disrupts the natural chain of command and everything that was considered normal about the world. There are, of course, plenty of moments that you can explore in terms of kingship with Macbeth as a character. You might explore how his reign is marked by mental suffering and paranoia, as of course he's only feeling this way because it was never his position to take. You might explore how his reign leads to violence and death. We're going to look at one quote that reveals the views of his subjects towards his reign. Nobody respects his position as king by the end, and they truly recognise him as a tyrant. So for Macbeth, his kingship is marked by disrespect. So you have the quotation, "This tyrant, whose sole name blisters our tongues, was once thought honest," in Act 4, Scene 3. This quote from Malcolm when he speaks with Macduff emphasises the stark contrast between the initial view of Macbeth and his reality as a tyrant. Here, the word tyrant is brutally honest. Macbeth isn't referred to by name. He is undeserving of that. He is reduced to nothing more than this tyrant, with the word this almost seeming to dehumanise him more. To the nobles, he is undeserving of his name, revealing their contempt for the man that has caused death and destruction in their country. Then you have the visceral imagery of a name that blisters our tongues, which powerfully conveys the pain and betrayal felt by those who once knew him differently. They can't say his name, not just because they don't want to, but because it physically pains them too. This reveals the despicable nature of Macbeth's kingship. His reign has been so disastrous that there is pain to even speak of him. Now, secondly, we have Macbeth in Act 5, Scene 5, who seems to boast about being completely desensitised to normal human emotions like fear. He says, "I've almost forgot the taste of fears," as he prepares for an attack and seems almost terrifyingly energised by the fact that he feels nothing as the army plans to attack. His ambition has given him his title, but has completely stripped him of what previously made him human. His desensitisation to violence and fear illustrates his descent into tyranny and moral decay, and goes some way in revealing the horrors of his time as king. His stubborn and unrelenting attempts at securing his position create a reign of terror, contrasting sharply with Duncan's benevolent rule. This moment again goes some way in proving the widespread effects of illegitimate or tyrannical kingship. We know, of course, the effects on Scotland and innocent people are immediate, and in all of this, he has also lost himself too. Finally, I want to finish with Malcolm. Malcolm ends the play with a poignant speech that represents the restoration of the rightful order. He is depicted as wise despite his youth, cautious and morally upright, embodying the qualities of a true king. In his speech, he says what's more to do which would be planted newly with the time, in Act 5, Scene 9. This quote reflects Malcolm's vision for a renewed and restored Scotland. His reign promises metaphorical growth and healing after the chaos of Macbeth's tyranny. Malcolm's return to the throne symbolises the restoration of natural order and the healing of the nation. Shakespeare therefore uses Malcolm's character to reaffirm the importance of legitimate and divinely sanctioned kingship in order to support King James. You can almost imagine this moment as a warning to the audience. It's sort of like he's saying, you have this stability now with King James, so cherish it. So by exploring the reigns of both moral and immoral monarchs in the play, you are able to broadly capture the theme and its purpose. So ultimately, Shakespeare juxtaposes the contrasting portrayals of kingship to convey important moral lessons to his audience. Through 3 different reigns, Shakespeare explores themes of morality, greed, and the consequences of transgressing the natural order. Overall, the play serves as a cautionary tale, urging audiences to heed the dangers of ambition and the importance of maintaining rightful authority. In aligning with the political sentiments of King James, Shakespeare reinforces the idea of divine right and the inherent legitimacy of the monarchy.